All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and we're going to be talking about relics today, but more so, when to relic, when to gear up and increase relics on characters that aren't required for something. So this is when you're getting into those, nuanced areas of, is this really worth it? Is this the time to put gear into a character that I don't need for a Galactic Legend or Journey Guide character, right? When do you do that? Because it is a very complex question. There's not a simple answer of now or tomorrow or in 2 weeks. You really have to look at a couple of key factors that we're going to describe today. So if you can like and subscribe, let me know your thoughts. Again, we've got to give a shout out to those who are on the council. Even if you're not granted the rank of master, I very much appreciate you guys. And of course, got to thank our Wampa and Jedi Master tier members for continuing to show their support of this channel. You guys are amazing human beings. I love every single one of you. Let's get in here. Let's talk about these relics and gear and when does it make sense. So the first thing to think about is what is your goal and what is your path ahead. Because if your goal and your path ahead are really relic intensive and really gear intensive, it can be harder to fit stuff in, right? For someone like myself here, I'm going Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, and then I'm going to go grab Bo-Katan Mandalore. So very Kairatech intensive, and Bo-Katan needs relics, but Jedi Knight Cal does not need relic levels. It's a Gear 12 unlock, so I don't, I have some wiggle room with my signal data right now of where that needs to go. So again, you need to analyze those things. If you're going for Galactic Legends, understand where you need that gear and where you don't, what the big, you think if you're going for an older Galactic Legend like Sith Eternal, Jedi Master Luke, they don't need the Kairatechs like Jedi Master Kenobi, Lord Vader, Leia, Jabba. So you need to figure out how many, what's the need for the resources in the coming months, right? Then ask yourself the kind of question they are, right? Like, what kind of character are you planning on gearing? Are you planning on gearing a one-off where, Darth Bane is a one-off? Like, I'm going to get Darth Bane. I don't need to gear up anybody else. I've got the tools to take advantage of him. Same thing with Zori and Commander Tano. Like, that, you don't need to build this entire team for Commander Tano if you've already got Padme, Rey, or Jedi Master Kenobi, right? Or Zori Bliss, right? She slots into those resistance teams really well. That's a one-off. And there's plenty more characters like this where it's a one-off thing, you're going to do one relic and it slots in, you're good to go. Or sometimes they're characters that need a team. And you have to ask that question, right? Like if you get Zori but you don't have the resistance, she's in the need a team category, right? Again, I just have placeholders here. You have to understand, you still, like, a one-off for me doesn't mean it's a one-off for you, right? You need to look at your roster and say what's a one-off and what needs a team. Malicos and Vandor, like, they need the Dash Rendar, the unaligned Force users. Iden needs her, Imperial Trooper team, and Saw Gerrera needs all those Rebel fighters like Wedge, Biggs, Sharut, and Baze. So, like, they need a team. So those are the two kind of farms I would say that you could undertake, right? So when do you do that, though, right? First, you have to analyze the kind of character that it is, because if they need a team, you have to understand, do you need to do more than one relic, right? Do I need to go gear up and, a bunch of other characters, or is this just, hey, one thing and I'm done? So that helps you dictate the when. I'd say normally with one-offs, you can do them sooner rather than later. But there's two kinds of one-off characters. The first is like your high impact one-off characters. Think of Malgus and Ben Solo. If you have Rey and if you have your Sith Empire, again, there's that if of like, do you have what it takes? But these are characters that have an immediate impact on your account today, right? They're hugely impactful in a lot of different game modes. They're going to significantly increase the capabilities of your roster. That's a high impact character. Compare that to what I would say is a low impact character, like Ki-Adi-Mundi, Vandor, Cara Dune, where they're going to make teams better, but you might not really notice a difference in your defensive performance, right? They're not going to give you as much as you think. Like Ki-Adi-Mundi and that Qui-Gon Jinn team is still vulnerable to the Bad Batch. You kind of need Keller and Beck to stop that, right? Would you maybe get some more holds? Yeah, but it's a lower impact. He's not this massively good thing in every game mode. Think of Vandor Chewbacca, similar situation. Like, he's going to help, but you kind of need other characters along with him, because you just stick him in the Dash Rendar team and there's no tank. Well, easy to take him out then, right? And then Cara Dune, she kind of needs other characters around her. She's not a, hey, just plug her in anywhere. Like, she does kind of need a team, so it's a lower impact one-off if she can fit in a bunch of places, but you might not really notice that much of a difference with her in your squad. And then you've got the building teams, right? That you're going to build an entire team. This oftentimes is going to be one that you've got to do a lot more thinking about. You've got to really kind of delay these things and kind of fit them in between those major farms, because unlike the lower impact characters where like this, you could probably do this like right after a big thing, or maybe in the at the early stages of your Galactic Legend farm, you just got Kairi Mundi. Hey, you know what? Maybe I do work on his gear a little bit. Whereas with these guys, like the only time you delay Darth Malgus and Ben Solo type characters, in my opinion, a high impact one-off, is if you're like a stone throw away from starting your Galactic Legend farm. Like if it's a difference between I can relic Darth Malgus or I can relic Grand Moff Tarkin for Lord Vader. Go relic Grand Moff Tarkin, start the Lord Vader farm. That's way more important. But if it's, I could do my first Bad Batch character to relics, or I could take Darth Malgus to relics. Take Darth Malgus there. Like that's immediate impact for a long period of time that you wouldn't get out of the other characters. So that's how you kind of analyze these things. Building teams, like I was saying, it's a lot more thought process here. You got to ask yourself what's the impact of that team, and then kind of figure out where does it make sense. Like with my Night Sisters here, it's not so much the Kyra text that is stopping me, but the signal data, right? I need the signal data for these girls. It's only 300 Kyra tech left for them because I've already put so much into Marin. So not as big of a deal there, but I need signal data for other things. And so I'd need to put in, hundreds of signal data to each character that I don't have available. And then, of course, same thing with the Tuskens, except that with Tuskens, I also need to farm shards for Tusken Warrior. So it's not even just a case of gearing, but I also need shards for one of the key characters, and I'm not willing to do that on top of all the Kyra techs they need. And then, what about adding relic levels, right? This is where you have to analyze your needs, your wants, and your impacts of them. I know all of you say, oh, well, I want to get my Galactic Legends to Relic 8. That's pretty easy. But do you need it? The answer is no. That unless your guild is like, hey, we need everybody getting every single combat mission on, Kessel and the Haven class medical station and, Lethal, you don't need Relic 8s on your GLs yet. I know it's a very controversial take of mine, but I think so many players rush their GLs to Relic 8 and then they don't really get any impact out of it. That the Relic 7 Galactic Legend would serve them just fine. Recognize, guys, I just went 5-4 in Kyber 1 with Relic 7s on my Rey and Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, Kenobi, Jabba, and Sith Eternal. Like, you do not need Relic 8s as long as you're, again, modding, right? But now I'm getting to a point where my needs, my wants, and my impacts are kind of starting to align that I need higher relic levels. And maybe it's not just Relic 8s. What about these characters like Commander Tano, Ahsoka, and Starkiller, where I could take them up to maybe Relic 7 to get a little bit more use out of them? When do you do these things? Well, they fall into the same place as this stuff here. Just, it's a little bit less of an issue because it's just signal data. And I know that you're like, oh, just signal data. But, it's just signal data. It's just relic materials. Whereas with Cara Dune, I've got to think about the gear with it too. I've got to think about the mods with it too. Like, there's all these other things that go into deciding when to do this stuff. So analyzing that goal is the first step, right? Analyze your goal. So Cal Kestis, okay, I only need gear 12s for him. If I'm going for Executor, right? Well, I need Kyrotex, I need signal data, I need Relic 8s. Like, what's your necessity for all those resources? And then you can start figuring out when these things make sense, right? Again, with your one-offs kind of taking the biggest priority. So for me, right now, I'm kind of in this spot where I really want to get Relic 8 on Rey and Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. I'd also really love to boost all of the relic levels of these three characters up because I think that in the coming Grand Arenas, I'm going to need more viability out of them. But I need to save enough resources, not only for Darth Bane, but also think about the signal data I'm going to need for Jedi Knight Cal when I do unlock him. So, how do I balance all that? Well, this is where I think again, hopefully if you're still sticking around, you guys get to see a little bit more of how I view these things. So for me, I'm looking at it and saying, all right, my Rey is Relic 7 right now. I've got plenty of relic materials, right? Even for, impulse detectors, Zimbital, or, impulse detectors, Zimbitals, and I've got enough signal data. So as long as I maintain enough signal data that I can get Darth Bane to Relic 8, or Relic 7, and I can get Jedi Knight Cal, which is about 150 blue signal data, so still have plenty of time there to get those things done. I'll have plenty of time to get more green and white signal data along that time. So I'm in a really good place. And so for this video, guys, when do you do these Relic 8s? Well, for me, right now makes sense because I'm not in a massive crunch for signal data, right? I've got the signal data I need for my coming things, because if Cal's requirements needed signal data, I'd maybe hold off, but because they don't, I can go ahead and do this, right? So now, boom, Ray, Relic 8. So that's a big, again, a big boost there. And then, of course, I mean, we're going to do one more because I can't just do her, right? We got to get Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. So, going to do a second Relic 8 right here. Again, spending a lot of resources. Whew. So now, right, I'm going to analyze my situation. Okay, so we've got 2 Relic 8s now. Gosh, it's getting easier and easier to do these, which is a very scary thought. Right, that's a very scary thought. So now, just real quick, I want to see. So Rey, 230 health, 11,000 damage. I'm pretty pleased with that. That's nice. And then we go to Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, 136k health, 13,000 physical offense. We'll take that all day long. So now, though, I'm looking at my Commander Tano, and do I take her to Relic 7? Well, I'm looking at my blue signal data, and that would drop me significantly below where I would need to be for Cal and Darth Bane both, but it would keep me at least in a situation where I could get Darth Bane. So what I think I'll do here is maybe hold off for right now, maybe spend a few more days, and then maybe I take her to Relic 7. Or do I go straight to Starkiller and say, well, I really could get you to Relic 7, because Commander Tano and Ahsoka, Commander Tano and Ahsoka Tano, they both fill into other teams where the other relics are kind of carrying them, where they're not as dependent on the relic levels like Starkiller is, where he's the primary damage on his team. So maybe this would be the answer for me to move to next, right? So, I think right now, when I look at this and I think about what I need, I think Starkiller makes more sense because, again, Commander Tano, she's with Kenobi, so she does pretty well on her own. Ahsoka, she would go with that team anyways, but also has other characters to carry her along, where Starkiller is the primary source of damage, right? That like a Relic 7 Ahsoka Commander Tano is not going to do as much for me as a Relic 7 Starkiller, because Commander Tano is not the primary source of damage on that Kenobi team. Kenobi is, right? Assists, like it's, she, the damage from her is coming from attacks out of turn, whereas, similar with, Starkiller. But on the Starkiller team, if he's not dealing as much damage, like, I'm really done for. Where Commander Tano and Ahsoka, they can deal a little bit less damage because I can get healing immunity out there with, Jedi Master Kenobi. So, yeah, I think we're going to go ahead here finally at the end of this and show you guys the final steps of doing this. Oh, gosh, this hurts so much. This hurts my soul, guys. And doing this. So now I've spent a lot of signal data, a lot of relic materials, but I've still got plenty for Darth Bane. I still have plenty for Jedi Knight Cal Kestis coming up, and now I can kind of bide my time and wait around for those next things to come. So again, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, getting to see me do some additional relics again, really boosting up our damages here, really boosting up damage, got some good health on them. So again, that's the end of the video. Like, subscribe, comment. I love all you. May the Force be with you. And I will see you guys. Oh, I guess you can't even see. Hold on. Can you see that I took them to that relic level? Is my face covering it? Okay, we can see it on that screen. Cool. All right. I love all you. May the Force be with you. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.